Okay, I'm going to show you how to throw a plate. So ideally when you're done with it, we'll also learn how to trim a raised foot. So plate pretty flat with a little bit of a ledge so it contains your peas. You don't want peas falling off your plate. The one unique thing with plates that you're going to be using is bat pins and a bat. So the pins go into the holes. The only wheels that do not have holes into the middle part of the bat is our Shimbos. So the ones with the white catches. Otherwise, all the other ones do have the little holes. You probably just never noticed them because they're full of clay. So you can take a needle tool to clean them out. And then you can pick a bat. There's wood or plastic. Either one works. They're universal in size, so they will fit any and all of our wheels. So we just drop that on top of the bat pins, and now you have a removable top. So the key is that most of the surface area of your plate is horizontal, so when you throw it, cutting it off and removing it from the wheel head is nearly impossible without ruining a plate. So the idea is that we will cut it, but we'll let it firm up to leather hard on the bat itself, and then take it off. Then you'll have a good plate out of it. Okay, so I'm working with 2.5 pounds, and would you mind going to grab a ruler too? We'll need that. And our plate is going to be roughly 8 inches wide and only 1 inch tall. So I want to get my clay nice and round. Help yourself out. Thanks. Sometimes that'll happen if you're not used to working with the bats. Sometimes if it's a little too wet, it can get slimy and your wheel or your clay can come off. So I just try to make sure that I seal that bottom and that my first few movements are with pressure downward so that that ball of clay doesn't come off. So your throwing position is pretty similar to what you're used to from all of them. Is that you have your non-dominant side hand on the side and your dominant hand on top. And for this round, we just want to push down from the top a little bit more just to make sure it really locks that clay down. And then you can engage a little bit more with that side hand to help center. Okay. Normally I would tell you that your little hockey puck should be pretty close to the middle, pretty tight, but because most of your plate is going to go horizontal, it's okay that your hockey puck turns more into a pancake. That's what we want. So we want a kind of a lower, flatter kind of pancake of clay. So once you have your piece of clay centered, your next step is going to be, think of it as the same as what you've been doing, is that you kind of have to prepare to open your clay. So instead of doing like a big drill down like you would for a cup or a bowl, our drill down is going to be kind of slight and our pull is going to be kind of long because we want to make a flat plate. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of use my palm on the top like this, and I'm going to angle down, and that's going to be kind of my drill. I'm going to drill down, and then I'm going to pull my fist to my belly button. Okay. So it's going to look like this. I'm going to angle down. Okay, you can kind of see there's my belly button that I kind of created, like my hole. And then I'm going to take my fist and draw that out to my belly button. So you can see that I'm trying to disperse that clay out, kind of growing a larger diameter. Now there's a couple ways to do that. I showed you this one, which is kind of one way I prefer to do it. But what happens is you kind of get a dome in the top. Some people will go to the traditional drilling and opening position and do it this way and pull, but I truthfully find that really hard to control. So I don't really like that method. The one that I think works really well is taking a sponge and have it damp. And I'll kind of put hand over fist, and I'm going to be pushing down a lot, but I'm also going to be pulling towards my belly button again. And just having both hands kind of working together and braced, I feel much more in control. And the sponge then is whenever you feel there is like a little extra drag, you just take your hand and you just squeeze it a little bit, and that distributes the water so that it won't get sticky on you. So just nice and slow. And our goal is to get to about 8 inches in diameter. The bat itself, this one is 12 inches. We also have some 14-inch bats, but most of them are 12. So you can kind of use that maybe as just a reference, that you're gonna get kind of close to the edge, but not all the way. And don't rush through this part. This is what's gonna ensure you have a nice plate. You might notice that the edges might be a little wobbly. That's not too big of a deal right now. I just want to make sure I got a nice flat surface. So right now I am at actually 9 1/4 inches, so that's plenty big. Okay. So what I want to do, now that I've kind of drawn out and pulled out to the correct measurement, I want to compress a lot. You have a lot of horizontal surface, so you want to do a lot of compressing. I like to use a metal rib. I feel like it just has a nice crisp edge, and I like the smoothness of it. You can try other material ribs if you want to try a rubber rib. I think the wood ribs are a little chunky. So I'm just gonna go kind of back and forth, just focusing on the center part right now. You really can't over compress, so feel free to do this for a few minutes. It's kind of one of those mesmerizing, kind of satisfying things that you can get lost in pretty easily. So you just want to make sure that's just, you have a nice flat bottom to your plate. Okay. Now this is not quite a plate. My peas would totally roll off of this, so we have to establish a little bit of a ledge. So this is where you're going to transition into your pulling. So we centered, we opened, and now we're pulling. For righties, you're still going to be pulling at the 3 to 4 mark, and so your hands are going to take in position like this. If you're a lefty, it's between 8 and 9 o'clock, and knuckle on your left, support hand on top. Okay, so I'm a righty. So what we're gonna do is we just wanna make sure that your plate is wet, and your knuckle is gonna dig underneath that clay and create a ledge, and you're gonna pull that ledge up to whatever you like. So it's gonna look like this. So I'm gonna dig in there. And sometimes you scrape off a little extra clay, that's okay. So now I have a little bit of a ledge. Some people will kind of leave this as more of kind of a modern version of a plate where there's no horizontal lip, so you can compress this. So you could finish your plate kind of like that if you wanted to, or you can go in a little deeper and pull a little taller. Get this wet again. Slow my wheel down just a touch. And you can stretch that ledge out, or that lip out, to create that plate lip that you might want. So all I'm doing is I'm taking that ledge and I'm just laying my hand down to create that ledge to whatever angle you like. Just make sure this doesn't get too thin because it will break on you or chip. So you just want to make sure that's not too sharp. And then I'll just clean up the surface, make sure that there's not a lot of slip or slime. If you want, you could recompress the base. It's to your liking. And your last step then is to do a little undercut here so that you have room for the wire tool to go, and also you're starting to trim off that bottom stuff that you don't need. So this is when you use your trim tool. And I'll just go in, move a little bit of that clay. Here I'm cutting it. If your trim tool is flat on the wheel head, you're cutting it off the wheel. If it's angled to the clay itself, you're cutting extra off the clay. And so I like to do a little bit of both. This saves a lot of time in the end. There's a little extra down there, but I'm going to leave that. It's at least detached from the wheel. Okay. Throw a little water down. It just helps the tool go cut through a little easier. Make sure that you're really pushing down with your thumbs. Otherwise, you're going to cut through your plate a little too high. And you'll just pop it off. And one night, overnight in the damp cabinet, or if it's on a weekend or an extended break, you want to put it in the damp boxes until you are ready to trim. Okay. Sound good? You can stop it.